Good afternoon. Welcome to St. Stephen's in Sierra Vista, Arizona. We welcome you to our piano benefit concert this afternoon with Mr. Michael Thomas Gilman. And I am the Reverend Allison Cornell. I'm the rector at St. Stephen's. We're glad you're joining us. Throughout our concert today, if you would like to make a donation to benefit two of the ministries in Arizona, we've got the Cruzando Fronteras, which is an ecumenical ministry with the Episcopal Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, the United Church of Christ, and the Catholic Church, to provide border relief for families that are seeking asylum at our southern border, particularly in Nogales, near here. And the other ministry is our Native American Ministry Council, which works to improve relationships with our Native American tribes that are in Arizona, and they've been very hard hit by the coronavirus. And we're looking to raise some funds to help them with supplies for sanitization and masks and medical assistance. But more on that in a little bit. First, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Gilman. Mr. Gilman joined us at St. Stephen's in February of this year, and we're very glad to have him with us for his skills at the organ, the piano, and for choral direction for our church. Mr. Gilman is originally from a small New England village, and he has taught piano and chamber music at the New York University and the University of St. Joseph, also in New York. His most recent post was as organist at Christ Cathedral Episcopal Church in Springfield, Massachusetts, and at St. Saviour's Church, also an Episcopal Church, in Old Greenwich, Connecticut. Mr. Gilman is a graduate of Yale University. And so, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Mike. I do want to let you know that if you would like to make a donation today, we have here the link that will take you to our events page where you can make a donation through PayPal. And if you're someone who would prefer not to do it digitally, you can always send us a check in the mail, and our address is online on our website at ststevens.az.org. Mike.
Hi, good afternoon. I want to thank you all very much for welcoming me into your home. And being from New England, an old New England custom or symbol of hospitality was the pineapple. And so, to open this program and to thank you, I'm going to play for you the Pineapple Rag of Scott Joplin. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to play a piece by Beethoven. This is the second movement from the Sonata Number 8, often called the Pathétique. And so I'd like to play it for you. Thank you. I'm going to play next two pieces by Bach. Bach is very interesting because he had 20 children, wrote thousands and thousands of pieces of music, but he only published 4 during his lifetime. These are 2 dances from the 4th part of the Klavierübung, which is one of the 4 pieces he published. And they are a saraband and a bourrée, and they're from the Partita in B minor, otherwise known as the overture in the French style. So here's the overture and the second of the bourrées. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn this over back to Allison, who can tell you a little bit more about one of the charities for which we are raising funds.
I hope you're enjoying the music so far. I know I certainly am. The first of our ministries that we're trying to do some fundraising for is Cruzando Fronteras. Now, where we are here, if you were able to see out our window in the back there, those are the Huachuca Mountains, and just on the other side is the border with Mexico. So we're very close, probably about 10 or so miles from the border here in Sierra Vista. And we have a group, a ministry, that works with other churches to try and provide some relief for those that are seeking asylum. If you've been keeping up with the news, you know that there's been a large number of people that are moving out of Central and South America up to the Mexican border, as well as other people that are coming from overseas, coming through Mexico to try and seek asylum in the United States. Many of these people are fleeing from conflict areas or areas that are largely controlled by gang violence, and you end up with situations where young boys are being forced to join into the gangs, and if they don't, then they are killed. Or young girls are being forced to join into the gangs for prostitution. And parents who don't want either of those outcomes for their children are often grabbing their kids and fleeing to get out of that situation. They certainly don't want to see their children killed at a young age, and they themselves, if they refuse to allow their children to join the gangs, put their own lives in danger. So many of those folks are coming up through Central and South America into Mexico and coming to our borders. And you may realize and may have kept up with the news that in January, the administration has decided that those who are seeking asylum and who are waiting for their court dates must now wait in Mexico. We did have some shelters here on the United States side, and they've asked us to close those down and have people wait on the Mexican side. So Cruzando Fronteras is working with other authorities, other churches on the Mexican side to set up shelters and to provide food and clothing and other necessities for people as they are waiting. One of the things that they also help to arrange for is legal aid so that they can get their paperwork in order and get a court date and then be heard and hopefully get asylum. But it's a long process, made even longer now because of coronavirus. The border is shut, and we can't allow anybody coming into our borders. So those who may have had court dates now see them postponed, perhaps indefinitely. And so while they're waiting, they still need shelter and clothing and food. And so Cruzando Fronteras is continuing to work to try and do that for these people. So if you have a warm spot for those that are trying to seek asylum in our country, to become working citizens in this country, we ask that you would make a donation to help support Cruzando Fronteras, and you can do so through our website. Again, the link to go to that is right here on this piece of paper, and also available online if you're watching from our web page. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike for some more music, and then I'll be back in a little bit.
Hi, thank you. The next piece I'm going to play for you is a nocturne by Chopin. Chopin didn't invent the nocturne. It was invented by a contemporary of his, an Irishman named John Field. But those of Chopin have never gone out of the standard repertoire. This is one of his earliest, and it reveals the influence of Bellini, or bel canto opera. Bellini was a composer. Bel canto, this rather simplistic harmonic structure with an incredibly ornate vocal line over it. So here is the Nocturne, Opus 9, number 2, in E flat major by Frédéric Chopin, half Polish, half French. Thank you. The next piece I'm going to play is by Handel, George Frederick Handel, who was born in the same year as Bach, also born in Germany. They never met. They're the two greatest figures, arguably, of the Baroque, and worked in a lot of the same genres, but differently. And Bach, well, he never traveled far from where he was born in central Germany. Handel lived a very cosmopolitan lifestyle. He first went to Italy, where he became absolutely famous as a composer of Italian oratorios. He was given refuge in a cardinal's house, incredibly elaborate oratorios. He went to Germany, and then he went to England and had an incredible success, where he had his greatest success. After his greatest failure, he invested all of his money into Italian opera, in which all the high parts were sung by castrated men, castrati. And then there was a parody that was made of this called The Beggar's Opera, which exposed the Italian opera as so ridiculous that it went out of business. And then Handel started writing English oratorios and made another fortune again. So anyway, here is the keyboard suite in D minor. This is one of the movements. This is the Allemande. And now, I know we pianists are supposed to memorize our music. Yes, that's it. But this is also a church, and Scripture has it, thou shalt not put the Lord thy God to the test. So, without further ado, here is the Allemande from the suite in D minor by Handel. Now I'm going to play another movement from this same suite, which is a suite. It's just a collection of movements, usually based on dance patterns of the day. And this is the famous Sarabande. And those of you who are movie buffs may recognize it as one of the main themes from Stanley Kubrick's picture Barry Lyndon, based on the novel by William Makepeace Thackeray, which was composed, Barry Lyndon, about the same time this keyboard piece was composed. So here's the Sarabande. Thank you very much. And now a word about the second charity for whom we are raising money, and again back to Reverend Allison Cornell.
Hi, and welcome back again. Again, I hope you're really enjoying this music. I know that I really am. And thank you for putting on this concert, Mike. It's been really good to hear your playing. And to be able to sit and just enjoy it is wonderful. The second ministry that I wanted to tell you about in the Diocese of Arizona, the Episcopal Diocese of Arizona, is the Council for Native American Ministries. This is a diocesan-wide, which means statewide, ministry group that is working to improve relationships with our Native American brothers and sisters, our neighbors in the tribes. I forget what the last count is of the number of tribes, but it's quite a few here in Arizona. Now, the one that you probably have heard the most about with regards to the coronavirus is probably the Navajo tribe, but they are not the only tribe that is really suffering during this coronavirus. Many of you may know that a lot of tribes are very communal and very family-oriented, so you end up with quite a number of individuals living in one household, multi-generational, from little kids right on up to grandparents and great-grandparents, all under the same roof. Now, as you can imagine, if one of those people comes down with coronavirus and that's where they live, it's very hard for them to isolate to try and keep the rest of the family from catching it. So as a result, we've had an explosion of virus with the Native American tribes. The other piece that you should probably know is that about 90% of Native Americans live at or below the poverty level. And without being able to get to their jobs, the little money that they had coming in really puts them in a bind to be able to afford to get the personal protective equipment like masks and gloves, and to afford hand sanitizer and other cleaning agents. And some of these places are very remote in Arizona. They could be hours from getting to a hospital, and many of the reservations don't have access to clean, fresh water. So some of the work that's being done by the council is to collect money to be able to buy masks and cleaning equipment and to provide help for medical assistance, as well as a number of churches and the Daughters of the King, of which I'm a member, are making masks, are sewing masks. And from about the middle of June, we had already provided 2,000 or more masks for the Native American folks, and it's been not quite a month. And I'm sure that we've probably done just as many, and more are being made now. The other thing that we know that monies and donations are going for is to help those that don't have access to water to build washing stations so that they can at least have a place where they can go and try and get clean and prevent the spread of the coronavirus. It's a big issue, and when you look at per capita, the number of people that have come down with the virus, it's worse than what it was in New York. So we ask that if this is something that touches your heart, that you want to help those that are really struggling with this virus to get it controlled and to treat it, we would ask that you would make a donation to the Native American Council of the Diocese of Arizona. And now I'm going to turn it back over to you for some more music.
Thank you very, very much, Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's important to remember, first of all, the water situation. This is the Sonoran Desert. The temperature yesterday was 112 degrees at my house with 3% humidity. It's going to be about 108 degrees today. It is very hot. There is very little to no groundwater here, so that is something. Another thing that's very important to remember is that this was not always the United States. This was the indigenous peoples, the First Nations of this country. Every day when I come to work here, I pass a monument dedicated to the surrender of Geronimo, leader of the Apache, not the capture, but the surrender of Geronimo. This was Apache territory. Navajo lived here. Many, many tribes have lived here. And then, of course, it was Spain, and then Mexico, and only since 1912 has Arizona been a state in the United States of America. So there are many, many, many different groups of people here who have been living here since time immemorial. Secondly, I want to thank you for watching. I hadn't intended to end up living here in Arizona, but the coronavirus struck. I was very fortunate to be able to come down here, and I have a wonderful living situation, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for all this has happened. And I'm hoping that you can find it in your hearts to find something to be grateful for that this pandemic has showed you. Whether it's resilience on your neighbors, whether it's an appreciation for a slower pace of life, whatever it is, if you can find it in your hearts to be grateful and to spread that gratitude around, to live a life of gratitude, is something wonderful. And so without further ado, gratitude, I'm grateful for music, and I'm grateful for Beethoven for writing this piece of music, which is known usually by its popular title, the Moonlight Sonata. Thank you. Next I'm going to play two pieces by Brahms, two intermezzi. Brahms was a very interesting composer, and I think his late piano works are his best works. And in them, as in much of his music, but especially in these late piano works, I think one can hear a longing as well as a prophecy. Very interesting, Jacques Attali, who was finance minister of France, wrote a book on music after he had retired. And his thesis was that music is a prophetic art, and also that who controls music controls a country through their economy. Very interesting. But it's interesting that this feeling of longing that permeates Brahms' music. And I think it very much fits into our mood of longing for what was, and a longing for what might have been, and also a longing for what we could do, that we must not lose faith, that we have to do something. This is what little I can do, and I'm asking you all to do something, whether it's to say hello, to be kinder, to check in on someone whom you haven't talked with in a while, maybe to ask forgiveness for something that's bothering you. I think this is all a wonderful opportunity. These are things that cost nothing, but that we can all do to make this world a better place. And so to that end, I'm going to play Brahms. This is a Rhapsody in A minor. It's Opus 76. Number 7. This is the Rhapsody in A minor by Johannes Brahms. then, one of his very last works, sorry, a little New England accent got in there. Anyway, this is the Intermezzo in A major. It's Opus 116, number 2. Rather famous piece, and I do hope you enjoy it. thank you all very, very much for tuning in. God bless you. God keep you.